For 27 years, he sat by the same window every Sunday, not out of habit, not for comfort, but because he believed one day the person who broke his heart would walk back through the gate and say one word he had waited a lifetime to hear. Sorry. This is not a story about anger. It's a story about silence, pride, and the aching hope of a father who never gave up on love. Thomas Elliott, 83 years old, lived in a small, weathered house at the edge of Maplewood. The windows were always clean, the lawn neatly trimmed, and the mailbox still bore the faded nameplate, T. Elliott. Every Sunday morning, Thomas placed a wooden chair beside the front window and sat there for hours. A cup of tea, lukewarm by noon, always rested on the sill. Neighbors who walked past often waved, and he'd nod politely, but never wave back. He wasn't waiting for them. He was waiting for Michael. Michael was Thomas's only son, once the brightest joy in his life. But 27 years ago, something changed. An argument, a slammed door, a few cruel words said in pride, and silence ever since. No one in town really knew the story, only that after Thomas's wife died of cancer, his son never showed up at the funeral and never returned. Most believed the old man was bitter, but that wasn't it. Thomas was broken. He wasn't angry. He was waiting. Waiting for a knock on the door, a single word, sorry. He didn't need reconciliation. He didn't need a hug. Just the acknowledgement that those words, thrown like daggers all those years ago, still hurt, that he still mattered, that he hadn't been forgotten. As seasons changed and his hair turned from silver to white, Thomas clung to that hope. His only joy was routine, his tea, his chair, and his weekly wait. Thomas had been a school principal for over 3 decades, strict, fair, and respected. Parents feared him, students admired him. But at home, he struggled to balance the discipline of leadership with the warmth of fatherhood. Michael was a free spirit, an artist. He painted on walls, carved initials into trees, and once skipped school to paint a mural on the community center wall. Thomas couldn't understand him and didn't try hard enough to. The final blow came when Michael was 22. He told his father he was moving to New York to pursue his dream. "You're chasing shadows," Thomas snapped. "Grow up." Michael exploded. "You've never believed in me." They fought for hours, and when Michael left, he left for good. Thomas held his wife, Ruth, that night. "He'll come back," she whispered. "One day, with an apology." But Ruth died of cancer 5 years later. Michael never called. Now, Thomas lived with her memory and the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. Each photo of Mike. Thomas had written many letters to Michael over the years. Apologies in reverse, regrets wrapped in ink, but he never mailed them. He kept them in a shoebox under his bed. He'd pull them out some evenings, reread them, sometimes even add to them. "I should have hugged you more. I should have said I'm proud of you. I miss your laugh." Each letter ended with the same line, "I'm still here." He imagined what might happen if they were delivered. Would Michael write back? Would he tear them up? One day, a neighbor's grandson, Liam, an inquisitive 10-year-old, asked Thomas, "Why do you sit by the window so long?" Thomas smiled faintly. "I'm waiting for something important." Liam thought about it. The next Sunday, he brought a small drawing of a boy and an old man sitting on a bench. "I made this for you," he said. Thomas took it with trembling hands. For the first time in years, tears ran down his face. "You're a good boy, Liam. Don't ever forget the people who love you, even if they're not perfect." In December, Thomas collapsed while tending to his garden. The hospital confirmed it was congestive heart failure. He had little time left. The doctor asked if there was anyone they should call. Thomas handed him a worn envelope. Inside was Michael's last known address. "I don't know if it's still accurate," Thomas whispered. The doctor sent a letter, and they waited. Thomas refused to die with bitterness. He only wanted peace. He asked for his bed to be brought to the living room so he could still look out the window. On his nightstand, the shoebox waited. Unopened, unsent, still full of words. It was snowing heavily the day a black sedan pulled up in front of the house. A man in his late 40s stepped out. Michael. His eyes were filled with hesitation, regret, pain. He opened the door and saw Thomas, pale and thin, in the hospital bed set up in the living room. "Dad." Thomas's eyes widened. A tear slipped down. Michael knelt beside him. "I'm sorry. I was so angry. I thought I was proving something by staying away, but I was just running from myself." Thomas struggled to raise his hand and touched his son's cheek. "No, I'm sorry too." For the first time in nearly 3 decades, they cried together. No more pride, no more pain, just release. Michael stayed. He made tea, helped Thomas write. They spoke for hours, sometimes in silence, other times sharing memories like old friends. Liam visited often, bringing drawings and flowers. He watched them, learning the unspoken language of healing. One night, Thomas asked Michael to take the shoebox. "Read them after I'm gone." Michael nodded, holding his father's hand tightly. They spent Thomas's final days in soft conversation, laughter, and quiet forgiveness. Michael read one letter aloud. "You were my brightest joy, even when I didn't know how to show it." Thomas smiled. "I know you forgive me, but I hope you can forgive yourself too." Thomas passed away on a quiet spring morning. The town mourned, the church filled. But something new appeared in the park by the edge of Maplewood. The next wooden bench. Engraved on it were the words, "I'm still here." Every Sunday, Michael sat on that bench with Liam, telling him stories about his father, his flaws, his love, his silence, and finally his voice. Sometimes strangers sat with him and listened, and somewhere in the still air of the town, Thomas's spirit lingered, not waiting anymore, but finally at peace. He never got to hear, "I'm sorry," in time to live with it. But he died knowing his love was not forgotten. And now, where he once waited, his son sits, on a bench that reads, "I'm still here." Because sometimes healing doesn't begin with words. It begins with remembering and choosing to stay.